See where the Oni Warriors put their picks and bans here in game number 1. They will have first pick, so maybe they can use that time to maybe ban this ROM away from Nitro. I've been talking a lot about it, but I mean, you just talked about it. He almost had, 20 games played and nearly a 75% plus win rate on that god. Not many players in this game have win rates on gods with that many games played. The only ones that really come to mind are like Shinto with Raijin and like Paul with Raijin or Tiamat. Those are the kind of names when you have more than 10 to 15 games on a god and a 75+% win rate, it might be time to just keep that god out of their hands. First bans coming through from the Oni Warriors will be the Khepri, who has been rising up amongst the supports. It was funny, Mifflin kind of called it, he's a part of the new guard, between him, the Geb, and the Sylvanas, the new guard of bans. But it's so funny because he's one of the old guards of the support, but is the new guard in this meta because he kind of has been widely unseen up until these most recent weeks of SPL.
Yeah, Khepri, honestly, Sylvanas has been in that conversation as well, and both of those have been very highly coveted against the Kings. They do not want to let them through. And so I'm wondering if they're going to let the Kings pick that up, because they've been more than willing to top 2 it if it is available for them. So either the Warriors may be scooping that away, or Sylvanas, since he's still available, something for the Kings to maybe think about, considering how much of an impact we've seen that healing have.
See, 2 mages banned away. The top 2 mages, according to Paul at least, the Tiamat and the Raijin, maybe according to just about everybody at this point. Those 2 gods have been dominating the mid lane, so no surprise to see them banned away here, which opens up a lot of possibilities. One of those being Sylvanas, because it was Geb, the Morrigan, and Odin banned away by the Kings. You did talk a little bit about them, but specifically Genetics has really liked this god. Between him and Inbound, those 2 players have really been fighting for this support to be up in that top slot.
I feel really good about that now.
That's a good one.
I can ride this for the rest of the day.
Oh, Artio made it through.
Yeah, Artio made it through. Oh, that's a little unfortunate for them.
That's
not fun. Mainly because I forgot about Geb as well. I will admit that. I'll give myself the ups and the downs at the same time. But this is going to be an interesting dynamic for them. Artio does look, we see her more in solo. She's more beneficial to have in solo lane and plays better from that role. That being said, the Warriors, Neil specifically, has been one of those players as a player as a support, and I think that the Genetics would be able to make that work if necessary. So it does still have a little bit of a flex pick. This has been a matchup that has been difficult for her now with the Cerberus locked in, and so that honestly to me makes me want to shift her maybe more into the duo lane just to get away from that. But I do think that we had mentioned it before, and based on what we've seen in the past, you're not too worried about it for the duo lane for the Kings because you still have all of your primary picks available.
Well, there's that god that Vote was talking about that's not fun to play against, but always fun to play as. Ullr, locked in for the Oni Warriors, and a Terra and a Chiron to boot with that Artio for the Camelot Kings. A strong top 3 coming out of the Kings, but I'm not completely sold that this Chiron is going to be going to the duo lane. We have seen, I think so far only twice, once with Zeros and Neath mid, and then once with, I want to say it's Venenu with Ho Yi mid. Those are the only 2 players we've seen for this phase, drawing those hunters towards the mid lane. Still some flex potential with this Chiron. I'm not going to hold my breath on this one going immediately to duo lane. With Artio and Terra locked in, does give a little bit of flex, but we have been seeing Terra go towards solo just a little bit more often as of recent. But with the Artio kind of rounding this out one, and maybe if this was Neil on this other side here, maybe we still kind of are in the talking point of Artio being support. But do you think the Artio goes support up against this squad?
Probably not. I feel like Terra's just going to benefit over there. But again, I think that's, well, let me rephrase that. Artio's just a better solo laner, period. That's a blanket statement. I think in that is better than Terra. But with both of them having that flex potential, neither one really has like a great matchup versus Cerberus, but I think Artio has a better matchup versus Cerberus, at least in that regard. Plus, depending on whether, again, if it's Chiron mid, which that's a completely different discussion, but if it is going over to Netroid, it's a pick that has been nice to him, not the nicest, 50% win rate in all the games that he's played this year on it, so 4-4, and not too crazy. But alongside of Terra, first off, that's a lot of healing on this team.
Yeah.
Blanket for everybody. But also, you do then have maybe not like pressure against Ullr Sylvanas. That's not the way to look at this. But survivability against Ullr Sylvanas, you at least got that.
Yeah, it's hard to pressure against Sylvanas to begin with. Sylvanas, Umoja, 2 Guardians that really do provide a lot of pressure in duo lane. They have a decent amount of wave clear. Then you couple it with an Ullr, who's just been rising in the ranks of popularity pretty much against all the hunters here. He's been one of the top go-tos. And a Discordia for the Camelot Kings. Not too many players out here still playing this mage, and a little surprising, we only saw 3 mage bans. It was the Raijin, the Tiamat, and then the Morrigan was banned by the Camelot Kings. Then it was 4 what I can only imagine are all going to be jungle bans with that Nike. You already see the 2 Guardians on each side, which means that this Nike would have been a jungle ban. So between the Nike Circuit and then a Hoonbot's Daji, this leaves Discordia on the opposite side. And then, again, really only 2 mid laners in this game, in this league, really playing the Hera, now being hovered here by the Oni Warriors. Hey, liking these mage selections coming out of these 2 teams.
They feel very much these teams, right? Like, Discordia is something that the Kings will play, and admittedly, I think the Warriors would play. And I can't think of many others. Like, Veneno will throw it out every now and then. Like, I think it's someone everyone has in the wheelhouse. A good Strife in the right scenario changes everything, though. And I really do like what they have against this. Plus, it's weird to think about, but, like, she can be pretty decent at spreading a Divine Ruin around in the middle of a team fight, so I think having some anti-heal available, especially against the Sylvanas, is going to be helpful here. I like her. She does a good amount of damage. She disrupts the fights. She does what she needs to do. Hera, you got Argus. Thumbs up. There you go.
If I'm not mistaken, Discordia is the god that has the most player damage in a single game, and that was by Yaman.
81
was it 81 or 87K? I can't
81.
81,000. So still, that's a lot of damage no matter what. Phil Swift would be very proud about having those ones there.
It was 81,321.
There you go.
There's Season 5.
There's your fun fact of the day. If you didn't already get one, now you get who, what god, who, and how much damage that was exactly. Over 81,000 on this god. And that, by nature of her passive as well. Whoever has the highest damage in the game, you get a little bit of extra bonus damage. And if you're already the top, well, now it's even more damage for yourself. A Nemesis to round out the draft for the Oni Warriors. And now the Camelot Kings are looking at their final selection. The jungle is still the topic for them. And with this Hoon bots, with this Daji banned away, kind of lowers some of the options here for Captain Twig.
Yeah, I think it's a lot that can be available for him. And it's the same thing we've been watching. What has Twig played lately? He's been playing a lot of like Loki, Susanoo. He's been locking in. He hasn't felt confident on them when we ask him about those, but he has been playing them nonetheless. That's the thing that I think makes things a little more interesting for the Kings right now, is that you're in a jungle meta where your jungler isn't as comfortable as some of the others, which isn't anything necessarily against Twig. It's just the style he likes to play is, you know, exactly what we had before. Not only the Warriors, but like your Najas, your setups. And you've got the perfect team for this, right? Like, you don't need to be the carry when you've got Netruoid playing the way that they do. You've got Tings playing the way that they do. But I do think that it's something, especially with Discordia, that you would like to be able to scoop up. I'm just curious as to, what he was going to go. Susanoo has been, again, one that he's been trying with, and he's been doing pretty well with. And so I'm not too surprised to see him go towards this.
But hopefully that has revitalized this Kings team and made them think critically about how they want to approach these picks and bans. And already, I think I've seen a difference. I mean, they have ROM available for Netruoid in this game, and they pick Chiron instead. And I think that this is, you know, if this was a must-win game, if they had to beat the Warriors in this game 1, they'd probably go ROM.
Sure.
But I think this is the time to make sure that we are up to speed on these other types of picks, and Chiron is the right look, I think, for Netruoid.
Yeah, what's our take on this Chiron? I mean, I don't think we need any more data on Ullr, because we have seen how absurd at the top level that this god can get played. This dual lane will go on back and pick up their purple alone. On the other side of the map, though, looks like a blue buff invade for the Camelot Kings. Going to force Nika back just a little bit here, because Captain Twig is over on the right, and the blue buff will get taken away by the Kings. So split buff steals, purple on one side against the Kings, and blue on the other, taken away against the Oni Warriors. Both junglers making some moves early in this one. Neilma low, it's a dash forward and a throwback from Netruoid. Shell gets used, and it looks like that'll save Neil's life.
Yeah, good Shell pickup, and I like the Shell quite a bit for Neil in a matchup like this, where you can get displaced and CC'd really, really easily.
Fans have gone, because you think back to last year, and Dardes and 3 out of 5 pieces of this Oni Warriors team for SSG, and how strong that team truly was. Dardes was at the forefront of that mid lane conversation for a lot of the year. Has had his struggles here in Season 8. But it feels like when the Warriors have gone back to picks like this in the Hera, you get a glimpse again at some of that vintage Dardes and the Oni Warriors that, you know, they show up big in games like that. And I think I admire their lack of nervousness, I guess, at going back to picks like that, because there's a pretty established tier list right now in the mid lane. Hera's far from the top of it. But when you attach Dardes names to it, I think it gets a little bit of a boost here. Neoma locked in place. He'll drop his ultimate, but Argus rains from the sky as well. First blood goes to Genetics. It's the immobile Sylvanas that just gets taken out. Captain Twig being chased down by Argus here. Cubo Fred out of nowhere blinks forward and gets the return kill.
That Argus actually giving Fred vision of what was going on, or at least information for Dardes to relay to him. So it ends up being a 1-for-1. The Kings get the first blood. The Warriors get the more valuable kill onto the jungler as opposed to the support. But you see the gold lead already starting to materialize here for the Kings. The Warriors just not doing enough to keep them off balance.
Yeah, it has been quiet for 9.5 minutes of this game, and already 1.5K in the lead are the Camelot Kings. Genetics grabs first blood in the game, but then a return kill here for Cubo Fred. And I think the Nemesis has been in a pretty interesting spot here as blue buff invaded, but Nico will be able to pick that one up. Nice strife actually over the wall from big man Tings. Genetics is close by here. Don't think there's enough damage to engage on that. But I think a similar conversation that I guess I was having about Dardes on this era, you could maybe talk about BMT.
Oh, man.
Unfortunate for Neoma. He is locked in place here and just no chance. The apple goes out, and the apple puts him down. Big man Tings grabs the second of the game for the Kings and the first for the Discordia.
And it's already a level or 2-level lead for Genetics, and it's just going to keep getting worse.
In.
And this is what we want to see more of from the Kings. This more activity early on. They're being early to these objectives, and when the Kings are on point, this is what they look like. They're early to these objectives. They're playing around them consistently and not just waiting for the game to come to them. They're not walking into the Warriors jungle and going heavy on invades or anything like that. They're just at every neutral camp. They're at every neutral spawn, and they're aggressive in defending their buffs, not being on the offensive.
Captain Twig had to avoid the pull there from Neoma. There is the ability to kind of chain up some CC here. Neoma gets a pull, he gets stunned from Boat. Boat might not be able to stun out here though if he's going to get jumped on like this. Twig has taken so much damage, and Neoma has turned his fate around. He's gotten a kill on the board now for the Oni Warriors. Cubo Fred into the back line. Big man Tings dances around in the stealth. Aegis used. 1 for none. The Oni Warriors feeling okay.
That's a big play, and it's centered around Vote in particular, who was up 2 levels on Netroid going into that fight, maintains that 2-level lead. The Warriors are not winning anywhere else, but they got to play around this Uller, giving themselves an actual win condition now.
Gold Fury down beneath half HP. Netroid around the corner. Genetics a bit further outside of the pit. Walls go up from Genetics, and they will not crash together around the Gold Fury. And the Oni Warriors trying to turn this game around. They've done a good job of it so far, but now Variety on the RDO can wreak absolute havoc. Apple onto Cubo Fred, and Variety will finally chase down Dardes. And that health bar still feeling just fine. Big re-engage from Genetics. In goes Neoma, down he goes on the end of it, and Vote left running.
Just when you thought the Warriors were going to start clawing back, Variety goes, no, it's me who has the claws. He's
That's
a bear,
right.
you see, on RDO, half the time at the very least. And has a beautiful re-engage, and this Hera has looked very good.
When you have two teams where a handful of the players on either team demand very specific pick bans against them, you tend to get put into situations like this. And the Oni Warriors have shown some fight, given their good composition here, but those are the moments where the Camelot Kings are able to turn these games around, give themselves the big advantage. And you don't love seeing a 2-level lead for the RDO out of the solo lane. Still a 2-level lead for Vote. Maybe on the left side of the map you can make something happen. We're going to be fighting right around Neoma, who is missing. I take that back, and the Camelot Kings have picked the Sylvanas for 4 out of 5 kills.
Go their way, but it isn't amounting to that much. Still keeping Vote in the lead, but that lead is shrinking a tiny bit. Is Netroid now at 17, though Vote hits 19, so pretty much staying exactly the same.
Neil's caught up, though.
Neil's caught up. The lead is still there for Variety, as Nika has also rotated a little early a couple times to make sure that these invades don't turn into more without him being present.
Pyromancer for the Camelot Kings, secured. It's a pull out from Neoma onto Variety, but do you really want to pull the RDO into the rest of your team? Stygian Torment from Nika will send Netroid right on back. The Chiron is low, and Cubo Fred's going to call him on it. Centaurus out, but I don't think the execute's on the other side of it. Captain Twig's got one onto Neo, and Netroid ends up falling. Running away from Argus is Captain Twig, and they'll make it a 1-for-1 trade.
Well, Nika had good damage there onto Tings, but just didn't have the stun up and available. So it's 1-for-1, but you get the Aegis out from Netroid and his death. He should be doing some pretty significant lifting.
I guess that's why I was so surprised with how many good picks got let through here. And Vote does feel like someone who's going to make this pick look good. Unfortunately, Captain Twig kind of doing it to him right now. Oh my God! I've never been more wrong in my entire life. In one moment, I'm so incorrect. Vote does do it to him, and Captain Twig falls. I backed up on that too. I said, Vote feels like someone who's going to do it. And then Captain Twig, I'm like, nah, Captain Twig's doing it. And then my original point stands. And that is gross from Vote.
Oh, what? I mean, I don't have a lot of words for that moment.
Good news is there's a fight, maybe breaking out here in the mid lane. Neilma no good with his pull. Genetics into the back. That's a big Earthen Fury. Stygian Torment out. Neilma gets the knock up in Variety. We'll get the 6th kill of the game on the Oni Warrior support. Cubo Fred's got to leave. He's been pivotal in fighting some of those late fight executes. Variety will claw down Dardes for his 2nd of the fight. It's a big turnaround in the mid for the Kings.
Oh, stun onto Tings!
Whoa.
Nearly just deletes him. Tings held onto the relics. That is some tight-fisted grip on your beads whenever Vote stuns you at this point in the game. He still has 2 items to go, by the way. He's going to get Heartseeker and Titan's Bane still, and he is going to start absolutely deleting people. But then the Kings are able to bounce back and make a big play afterwards. But this is what I got to see.
I love that we get it from this point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Nearly finds that axe, but doesn't. Good patience to make sure he doesn't get rooted. It's this little 360, 417, 441. Yeah, quick maths, that's his whole health.
As far as gold goes for Vote, a little bit further on in the build than where Netrioid is. So the game plan has been clear for a little while. You got to keep Vote alive and involved in some of these fights. Nika wants to engage. Captain Twig will use the beats. Down he goes. Typhoon is out for some peel onto the front line. How's Argus going to impact this fight? Well, it's going to disrupt Variety.
Nice stun.
A little bit good. Stun out and a good pull back from Neilma. And Variety has been CC'd to all hell. No chance for the RDO to play, and Dardes adds 1.
And that's the easiest way for this to work for the Warriors, is that they've got a really good CC chain on this front line. They put good pressure on your beads as it is.
Where this Fire Giant dance lasts a minute and a half, and we're looking at an enhanced Fire Giant 30 minutes in.
Oh, yeah.
And with the map state now, that is a huge difference. 1 tower missing on, or rather 2 tier 1 towers missing on the Oni Warriors side of the map. That's a great pull from Neilma. Variety will walk away from this one, though. A good start to the fight for the Oni Warriors. He'd love to get that kill, but at least making Variety's health bar a little bit lower.
Got his beads as well. It did cost Fred his ultimate, but he's got 30% CDR. That's not a huge investment from him. That was really sick from Neil, and does make a big difference. And you see part of the reason why Dardes might feel like he doesn't need the percent pen, because he's got the Nemesis ultimate to shred percent protections for him. But you know what's really good to kill tanks is taking like all of their protections.
Yeah, that's great.
And not just some of them.
Not just some of them. Ooh, nearly another pull for Neilma. You can suddenly tell the Oni Warriors starting to push a little bit further forward. Pyromancer is low here, and the Warriors will steal it away. I think it's Nika who gets that one. Doesn't matter who gets it, except for the fact that it's the Oni Warriors. Not a massive swing. No. Definitely doesn't feel great for the Camelot Kings. You got to survive on the back end, though. That's important. Nika gets a lot in the Stygian Torment, but big man Tings deletes Neilma. Nika, his health bar's missing as well. And now it's Variety running down Dardes on left. Vote running away on right. Bad fight now for the Oni Warriors if the Kings are able to run him down.
Genetics may have bit off a little bit too much, but it just doesn't matter because the rest of the fight is so good for the Camelot Kings, and that's exactly what they needed to do. The Netrioid's ultimate did insane work in that fight. Was hitting Dardes, was hitting Vote, but look, no, Twig gets caught shopping by Vote once again.
We've seen that.
Yeah, I think Twig's gonna send a message to Vote that maybe should go past Cooper first after this set. He has really been causing him problems. But that's a huge death actually for the Kings to take, because they should have been able to reset and go fire by like double. It comes up twice as fast as that blink, but Fred uses the blink anyways, so a bit surprised, but his Magi's is on cooldown now, so clearly got some value out of it in that skirmish.
Well, the big thumbs up I think that we give to Dardes is that it ends up being an op chart at the end of the build, but I'm not going to get a chance to talk about it. Big stun from Nika on a Captain Twig, but Vote, target number 1, he's way low on HP and Variety.
Dead.
Walking beneath the tier 2 tower, Stygian Torment slows down the RDO, but there's Genetics there as well, and the health bar's dwindling for the Oni Warriors here, but Netrioid low as well. Cubo Fred around the corner gets the stun, but the gallop away is enough. Nika from range, no good. Variety has run down Cubo Fred in the meantime. Nika is going to turn tail and head on out. Big Man Tings here around the corner, sends out a Strife, and it's a 2-for-none. Kings ahead.
Huge play by the Kings because they take Vote out first, and you saw Vote's frustration in the player cams right afterwards. He's tapping his head thinking, what am I doing? That damage onto him, and it's that ultimate from Netriud, like we were talking about 10, 12, 15 minutes ago.
Yep.
That really makes the difference.
This game now broken wide open. The Camelot Kings win a big fight. 6,000 gold plus in the lead.
Your first Fire Giant meant to set you up, not necessarily to end the game. Your first EFG, we're trying to end.
Yeah, could end.
You can skip those.
Could end. Nika, Neuma, they're forward. Watch out for the pull from this Sylvanas, and it's on to Genetics, and a lot of damage pours into the Terra. Terra will dash away, some sustain, remember, on the back side of this fight here. To the left, with a bit of a floater here in Captain Twig between left and mid. Looks like one 5-man grouping to left to maybe end this game.
Interesting that Twig is here. I think he might win that 1v1 up against Fred, but doesn't try and split it.
Oh, Genetics is into the back, and there's the Earthen Fury, and this fight has started. It's a pull back through, but Twig immediately back out. Look at Variety. He's just walked into the back line and forced everyone out from the Oni Warriors. A good ultimate, though, from Cubo Fred onto Captain Twig. Keeps the Susano out of melee range. Genetics melted through, and it's Vote on the kill.
And both teams just having so many troubles getting fights started in the right way. I mean, it's a blink Earthen Fury from the Terra, and the Warriors are just so spread out. They don't have to stress about it. They don't get hit by any follow-up CC. There's no follow-up blink coming from the rest of the squad until a few seconds later, and it's on a different part of the fight. The Kings just not able to match that same pressure.
Oh, he's got him! What a read from Big Man Tings. Vote walk forward, and BMT dropped the Strife.
Two-tapped him.
Sent out the one, the old two-tap for BMT. Might do it again to Dardes. Camelot Kings find picks on both of the carries of the Oni Warriors, and they got the Phoenix in the mid lane. Nika, Cubo, Fred, Neuma, the last 3 alive. The Camelot Kings, they have enhanced Fire Giant on 4 for the next 40 seconds.
Imagine thinking you could just walk into Big Man Tings' jungle and not get summarily punished. That is crazy.
Captain Twig takes the ult from Cubo. Fred here sends out the Typhoon, but he loses that fight. Pretty big, actually, for the Oni Warriors to get that one, but you still got Netriud pushing down right Phoenix. All 3 Phoenixes will fall. It looks like the Camelot Kings happy with what they've got.
Power. And it let him do this. You see, he's got 1,000 power.
I can't tell if Vote was trying to do the same thing.
He was. Yeah, he's hunting Big Man, trying to see if he's... So he shows his back animation right there to make Vote think he's backing.
That's Soul Gem proc too?
Yes, sir. See ya. Literal two-tap.
Good night rest as we drop back down. 41 minutes into this one. Oni Warriors versus Kings. It's going long in game 1. There's another enhanced Fire Giant here in just a moment, and 3 Phoenixes down for the Oni Warriors.
Hello.
Maybe it's your best chance. You take a fight outside your own base, but Vote misses the execute. He'll get pulled back in. Dardes finishes off the kill anyway, and the Oni Warriors get away with 1. Looks like they'll lose 1 in exchange.
But Netriud gets picked up, dug down by Argus.
It's a double kill from Dardes on the re-engage. Strife is out for Big Man Tings, dancing in the bubble to get those cooldowns right back off. Variety ripping through the front line. In the back, Vote pouring out the damage, and he's got one onto Variety. 3 Phoenixes down, no problem. Oni Warriors get 3.
Unbelievable play by the Warriors. It doesn't win them the game because there's too many towers still standing, but that might have bought them all 3 Phoenixes in that moment. Love that play from Vote, who just says, hey man, it didn't work the last time. I'm going to try and do it again, but Dardes can't get caught here by Big Man Ting. Someone pings him out. Mid Phoenix is going to get close, and then all they really have to worry about is your right.
Do they have time to do this, you think? 15 on Netriud, 5 on Twig, 30 on Variety.
Yeah, I think they might.
We're thinking about Phoenixes, and for good reason, but Fire Giant's still standing there. Big Man Tings, we've seen the damage that this Discordia can do. Will the Oni Warriors back off now that the Kings know that this is being done? That's the question. The answer is no. Neuma, clapped in, Apple out. Goodbye, Neuma. Big Man Tings deletes it, but Vote, he's still on the enhanced Fire Giant here. Dardes over to the left. The damage is there, but the Camelot Kings are the ones who get it. The Oni Warriors, the tug of war, the back and forth. And more recently, we're going 4th towards the Camelot Kings.
Look, man, the Warriors in the situation they're in, they've got to roll hot. You know, they've got to roll hot. That's their only option. And so they have to take risk after risk after risk in order to stay in it. And so you might look at Vote like he's crazy for staying on that EFG, but that was a tool to maybe be able to stall the game to get to the point where they can actually win it. So I've got no problem with him trying to make the play. You just got to tip your hat to Big Man Tings, who does it to him again.
And for a moment, it looks like the Oni Warriors have control wrestled back. Anything but now. The Camelot Kings have all 5 members. 4 of them have enhanced fire giant. Nika is going to be the first casualty here. Big Man Tings lives on, but not for much longer. Cubo Fred gets that one, but it's a double kill from both of the junglers here. And so the Oni Warriors lose a couple. Dardes is still on the map, but can you say so for much longer? Genetics runs down Cubo Fred, and the Hera will trot on back to base. The Camelot Kings, they've got the legs, and they've got the win in 45 minutes.
Look, the Warriors made them work for that one. You don't see many teams struggle that much after getting the enemy team's 3 Phoenixes, but a really well-played sequence from the Warriors. Big Man Tings just shuts them down, man. What else can you say?
I think that's a good grouping, potentially good grouping from the Warriors that translates into a really, really upsetting, like, first off, kill on Anil, but then the objective gets taken. I think you get a good performance from Twig. There were a couple of moments where maybe he falls and you don't want him to, but you also have a lot of moments where he's getting or helping get kills where your team was needed to be able to pick those up. And you also get a lot of damage being dealt here. 32, almost 33,000 being dealt with an 8.5 KDA. You get a beautiful bait right here up against the Vote Uller to be able to 2-tap him. This is one of those moments several times where, the Kings are supposed to be retreating. They're supposed to be out of there. It's supposed to be the turnaround for the Warriors now, that just 1 or 2 things go right for the Kings, and all of a sudden that's all they need in order to make sure things go their way. Plus, again, you get this masterful kill that I believe ends up translating to Big Man Tings getting the FG. Sitting in his mist right there to make sure he gets the cooldown. Yeah, throws it over the wall to steal that away. You get an EFG at 40 minutes. You also just killed off the support. Neil, 1 and 8, not the performance you want from a first pick Sylvanas. I think the Kings, despite the bumps in the road to get there, did play very well cohesively.
And Twig sitting at a 6, 6, and 6 on the slash line. It doesn't feel like it performed that. It looked really strong. He had some really good moments. Got picked off quite a few times, but
that's
the
like
nature
the
of the
Halloween slash line.
It really is.
Let's go Twig. Bravo. That's hard to do.
It's a good one there for Twig. 22,500 damage, but let's talk a little bit more about that 32,500 from Big Man Tings. We were talking a little bit about how Discordia has the most damage in a single game in the SPL and had the most damage in this game of the SPL up against the Oni Warriors, able to take them down. Kings, maybe they go ahead and maybe shift a ban over towards it. Did quite a lot of damage. Sure, the Uller didn't win, but there were moments where that Uller was just erasing players off the map.
Yeah, and admittedly, there's a couple of plays where if it goes one way for Vote versus the way it actually went that we saw, maybe the Kings aren't looking so hot towards the very end of it. And so there's definitely a world where the Warriors could run back something very similar and still be successful. The question to me is the first pick on the Sylvanas, right? Over the RDO, if that was going to be worthwhile for them. Neil didn't necessarily get to have the performance he wanted in a 1 and 8 slash line. But admittedly, if your team, when you're losing and you're the support, that's when things are going to end up looking the worst for you. So I imagine they could very easily go back to it and let things run mostly similar throughout all of this picks and bans phase.
Well, it is the same bans immediately out the gate for both the Warriors and the Kings. Odin, the Morrigan on for the Kings, and a Raijin Khepri ban by the Oni Warriors. Same thing that they did in game number 1. See if they get the Tiamat ban. That was their 3rd one in game number 1, and they will do so. So similar top 3 out of the Oni Warriors in the ban columns. We'll see if their picks like to go the same way. The Camelot Kings, they'll take Geb out. So it's the same 6 bans that we saw in game 1. So they'll repeat them here in game number 2. Now we need to see where the Oni Warriors shift their pick dynamic and see if that Sylvanas was so hot of a priority for them in game 1 will make it through. No, it will be the RTO as a first pick for the Oni Warriors. And now the question that was kind of towards the Kings was, do we see the flex with the RTO maybe towards support? Probably not with genetics on the team. But now that it's on the Oni Warriors, maybe now we can see this RTO have some flex potential.
Yeah, Neil doesn't mind playing it, but I just have doubts. I think that this is something that is probably going to be through and through for the Warriors solo lane. And it's not, it's weird to think because it's not going to necessarily hard carry on its own. But the setup, especially with Uller still being available, I think opens up a much wider conversation. You get 2 of the very, I want to argue, big powerhouses that the Warriors had last time here with the Sylvanas and the Cerberus. And I think that Cerberus has a good matchup versus RDO. I think Sylvanas, in the right hands, can do really well, but also does need his team's help to surround them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went for, I guess, jungle plus now maybe the Uller if they think Vote's going to be able to turn it around. He had a lot of good moments despite the fact that it didn't win. So it's not necessarily something they need to shy from. There's also a lot of different hunters available, but I am worried if you let it through here that the Kings will just scoop it up.
Yeah, the Kings can very well do so. So it'll be an Uller and a Circuit for the Oni Warriors. So we got a little bit of that front line, then you got the Circuit, still some of that flex potential if it does go over towards the duo lane as a support, or we could still see it out of the jungle as we've been seeing it a little bit more as of recent. Uller to round out at least part of the duo lane, and then a Cupid on the other side for the Kings. This is something we haven't seen from Netroid that I can even recall. Has Netroid actually had a Cupid game? I for the life of me cannot think of an instance where Netroid has played Cupid. We've seen some Zapman Cupid. I think we've seen a little bit of Barracuda Cupid, maybe even Panda Cap, but I don't think Netroid has had a Cupid game just yet.
No Netroid Cupids. That is, admittedly, as much as it is like matchup-wise, theory, ignoring players, not that outlandish to think of, right? Like, okay, yeah, this is a good pick. It does well against Uller. With the more recent build changes, feels like that fits perfectly into specifically Cupid's wheelhouse. Plus, Fields of Love is such a good ult. But I've never seen Netroid play it. I anticipate it to be pretty good because I like the way Netroid plays most hunters, so it'll be interesting to see. Plus, if you want to talk about it, you know, we mentioned healing last time, but Cupid Hearts plus Sylvanas heal, it's a pretty good sustain lane.
Yeah, that lane is, if they get a moment to try and re-sustain between triple hearts that Cupid can drop and then the Wisp from Sylvanas, yeah, they can get themselves back up pretty close to full, and the mana sustain that you get from hearts. One thing that some people sometimes forget about is that as long as you got somebody in lane with you and you got hearts, even if you don't necessarily need it, it's a great way to get a lot of mana back. Even if you get 2 of those hearts, you are getting a net positive. But as far as the bans are concerned, for the second phase of it, Yamoja and Kuzenbo banned away by the Kings because they're still not sure if Neil actually has his god just yet, so making sure to take a couple of those top picks off the table, namely one of Neil's top picks in this Kuzenbo, and then the Yamoja, just because she's still one of those top supports that players are going towards. And then the Oni Warriors, because they have Circuit, this is most likely going to be rounded in their jungler to take the Hoonbots and the Dodgy off the table one more time, and it's another Discordia here for the Kings, locked in that 4th spot.
And honestly, this is, again, Cupid and Discordia. If you're going through the tier list of, hey, what is going to be the best of the best, do not typically fall at the very top of the list. Do they perform when you need them to? Yes, and that's exactly what it is kind of here. Cupid, I think, again, against the Uller, and of course what we can see late game and team fights for the Cupid, all very solid. What we just saw from the Discordia speaks for itself, so you don't even really have to justify it. Top damage in the game, did insanely well, stole a Fire Giant, got a solo kill. All of it looked really good, and they were able to funnel a lot of damage specifically through that. I'm more curious as to, again, the jungle pick. It was Susano last time. Susano's been treating things pretty well overall for the Kings, and it might be somewhere that they go to. I know we saw, I think, what was it, Raven the other day from from Twig up against the Bolts. Didn't quite have the same performance that you would want, but again, at this point, it is just trying to figure out where he is going to fit most. And admittedly, some things that are tried and true, like Erlang Shin, Gilgamesh, these have still technically merits right now in the jungle.
There's a lot of mid laners up on the table. There's Hera, that Dardus could have gone back to. I mean, there's even the Aphrodite that he's played before, and there's a lot of other just decent mages out there. Jean-Quiy's not the one that I would have immediately turned my sights towards if I'm the Oni Warriors. We've been seeing a little bit more success out of it in the solo lane, mostly with Fine OK, who's been playing it a lot on the Jade Dragons. But Jean-Quiy going into mid lane is something we haven't seen in a little bit.
Variety was able to get the better end with the RDO in the early stages, but I think Nika definitely had a pretty big impact when it came to the team fights. Not that Variety was unable to do so the same way. Interested in how well the Cupid matchup's going to go for Netroid here, because he really played mega passive in the laning phase, which is sometimes the right thing to do, and I think it was in that instance, up against what Vote was throwing at it. So I had no problem with the way Netroid played the laning phase, and he came to the team fights and played really well.
Well,
so,
Vote is going to be playing the way Vote did.
Yes, yeah, gunning you down.
I don't know if it was an active choice by Netroid. It was more forced, maybe, by Vote.
That's what it does.
You had to sit back.
He was down 2 levels and against an Uller who can easily all-in you at any given point.
Agreed, and I think I'm just as interested because the potential is still there, but this can also get returned. I guess that's a very important kind of moment to look at there. The Heart Bomb takes a little minute to explode. We have seen a Jean-Quiy's game, but it was out of the solo lane. We get the old full damage Jean-Quiy's here for Dardes. Strife no good. Is the damage still there? Beads on the other end. allow Dardes to walk away. That strife hits. You might be looking at first blood. Ooh. Now Cubo Fred on the return gang. Captain Twig says no thank you. I will be leaving, and leave he does.
Fred does have ambush now that he's hit 3, but with those health pots ticking Twig back up, makes the right choice. But
oh,
I
he's
like
nuts.
This. Yeah, chase him back. No reason to let him get these backs for free because you have such a big HP advantage. I am definitely concerned for Dardes on this Zhong Kui.
Nope. Speed buff for Captain Twig.
Both of these speed buffs.
Well, right. That's how the joke goes, right? Look. It's too early in the game too for me. I can't lose it already. The mental is shattered. Losing to J-Mac in ping pong by like 15 points broke me for the rest of the day. Dardes pulled in by Genetics here.
No fear.
No fear. Dardes will get some damage out onto Genetics. Neilma's taking a lot here though. Or Skull, I should say, right down Main Street, and Neilma walks on away. Looks like Steel was successful though. Big man Ting's not able to pick it up.
That's what the Zhong Kui can't do. Most mages gotta panic beads, instantly use your ultimate, everything like that, and Zhong Kui goes, cool, I'm down with this.
Big damage from Dardes onto Genetics. The range from Nika.
Close.
No, won't get the kill, and Genetics will head on back. Both teams not shying away from scrapping here. Early in game 2, top player damage now goes to Nika, and a slight gold lead even over to the Oni Warriors, called about 1,000 8 minutes into this game. So
you just got to get in there at all times.
Yep.
You've got to play, I would argue, with disrespect. You have to disrespect your opponent and force them to make you back up, because otherwise you're just not going to get full value out of Jonathan Quay.
Jonathan Quay. I've always appreciated that one. Another red buff, another invade here from the Oni Warriors. Neilma will dash forward. Genetics, oh my god! He is deleted, and there's first blood for you. Will it get answered back? Yes, Captain Twig jumps onto Cubo Fred, and the W key is held by Dardes, but was it too far? It's a pullback in from the Stygian. Torment and Variety has the answer.
Just too much of a commit on the Genetics, not in ability usage necessarily, but in positional usage. Detroit's ultimate just stuffed that engagement perfectly. That was really well done.
There is still a red buff here, but the health bar is slightly favoring the Oni Warriors. Not for long, though. Nika's taken a lot.
Should live.
See if that is a stun. If nothing else, beads get used. And in the event of a follow-up from the Camelot Kings, you definitely have to use those beads, and so Nika will survive. Presence we've seen here on left, if we continue to get these red buff invades, feels like a matter of time before Vote is just going to let out a serious series of damage that ends up clipping one of the Camelot Kings. Around the backside of Nika is Captain Twig here. Assassinate might get him in range. Blue buff halfway back to respawning, so it looks like just some eyes turned towards right. But no commit. Around the backside of mid, though, goes this Loki. There's Variety rotating in a little bit after that as well. Big man Ting has taken a lot of damage, but he dashes out. Neilma will finally help get the kill. Netruid answers one back, though, as Cubo Fred falls down, and here's the back-end rotation in from Variety. Dardes will walk away from the rest of this fight. Nika in from the solo lane as well. Captain Twig not wanting anymore. Will waltz on out. Mid lane for jungle is the trade.
Well, finds Netruid as he comes around the corner, but still had some Lotus Crown protections on him from those wisps, so he doesn't take nearly as much, but it's still another successful red buff and purple buff, and if Fred wants to trade his life for Tings, that is a much more worthwhile endeavor than trading for Genetics like he did on the last invade. I'm fine with him taking the one-for-one himself for Tings every single fight. And again, it's Fields of Love, causing problems, Netruid doing what he can, but he just can't match the output of Vote, who got that whole fight started with a beautiful axe on a Tings.
Fury pulled by the Oni Warriors, and Fury finished by the Oni Warriors. That'll expand on this gold lead right around that 2,000 mark.
Well, then they would abandon it. This has been consistent through 2 games. We're giving Vote Uller, and we are standing on their left side buffs. And whatever happens, happens, but we will be there when the buff is up.
Now, the Kings win game 1 aggro, but it's wild to me that Vote gets this pick in back-to-back games. I mean, just with how good it looked in game 1, and again, how good it looks here in game 2. If the Oni Warriors close this one out, time for the Kings to consider taking it away. Variety blinks forward, tanking up the tower here in goes Captain Twig, stunned, chained onto Nika, and the last bit of damage is there. But now Variety on the wrong side of this lane, trying to walk away. Dardes does a whole lot of damage, and Captain Twig learns it the hard way.
Really like that play as Fred goes in now for Variety, gets his beads, but no shot. He lives through this dive. Fred finds his second, and I love that play from the Warriors. Instead of being stubborn and sitting on the purple and waiting an extra 20 seconds for that to respawn, they read the map. They understand what the Kings are likely to do. If they aren't defending red, they're not sitting there doing nothing. They're going to gank Nika. And so let's send a force in order to try and counteract that play. Love that.
I feel so bad if you're Netrioid, but this might feel bad if you're Dardes. Strike, pull, damage, all of it's there, but is enough of it there? Big Man Tings has lost half of his HP in the meantime. He's not going to miss that one. Dardes nearly dodges it out. But a well-laid plan by the Camelot Kings.
Robin
Ma shredding the slopes
three of us kicking legs.
You're right, the Three Musketeers gift that we use under all the replies for one another. Cubo Fred in on the red buff. But he's alone here, and Captain Twig, he wants to fight. He'll assassinate in on a Cubo Fred.
Still going?
He is still going, but now he'll turn on away. Fields of Love out from Netrioid, and that has cut off this entrance path. Vote Neilma not wanting to walk right up the gut there. Will end up backing away. BMT ends up getting his red buff. Neilma out and forward, but alone. Dash away and prevent any further fighting.
And that is the first red buff Big Man Tings has gotten since the start of the game, because it was a successful invade when we weren't sure if Fred got it at the second respawn, or the first respawn.
Yeah, you're right. It's been a minute.
That has been the first one since, which is crazy to think about.
Wild. Neilma gets a root onto Netrioid. Vote is low here as well. And this is when the Oni Warriors feel like they're at their scariest. When Neilma, and we had plenty of conversation about this in game one. When Neilma is able to play that in your face, force you back. Everyone else in the game is 17 or below. So make no mistake about it, Vote is the one in the power position here. Has Brawler's Beat Stick, Jotun's fully stacked Transcendence, and then Tier 1 into his next mace. And so Vote, if able to get involved and stay involved in these fights, might just end things here for the Oni Warriors. The Camelot Kings step forward after the Oni Fury gets started up. There's some damage from Vote onto Genetics, but Neilma burnt away. And I would argue in a bit of a lopsided trade, the Kings come out ahead.
They do in the HP bar department,
yep.
but it's beads
Yep.
on Genetics that go down. So that is a win for the Oni Warriors, but who really punishes him for not having those beads? It's got to be Fred, but
Might be.
does he want to open onto a Sylvanas? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Neilma wants to open things up, though. He's gone into the back. All the blinks getting used here. The Oni Warriors have found the backline, but the backline has been spotted out by Variety as well. Both solo laners involved in the opening kills here in this engagement. Re-engaged from Dardes. Big double stun from Nika, and there's a jump in from Cubo Fred. The Oni Warriors chasing down the Camelot Kings, and a double kill from the Artio feels good.
Dardes still looking for more, as is Vote. It still has that axe available, but beads are up for Twig. He knew that one was hitting from minute one.
And Captain Twig, quick on the beads, had to use them. Cubo Fred is low here. Genetics is close by. Half HP, maybe a little bit above for everyone else on the Oni Warriors, and that's enough to stall out this Oni Fury at least. So a 2-for-1 trade. The Oni Warriors will come out ahead.
It's like a
They're like
couple of
6 or 7 fours, 7.5 fours.
Yeah,
something like that.
Right around there. Yeah, that'll do it.
Okay,
right around there.
This jump in from Neilma here. Stun will be there. Half HP, but we know that Neil can sustain up just fine on this Terra, and the rest of the Camelot Kings here as well. Twig does have to be careful because telegraphed, maybe not the right word, but the Oni Warriors know where he's been pathing. Blink in from Dardes. Oh my god! What is that? He's dead. He's gone. Cubo Fred finishes off the kill, but Cubo Fred will have to jump away. Netrioid does a whole lot of damage. Can Captain Twig finish off the Circuit? Yes, he can. Great Stygian Torment, and a fantastic knockup from Genetics. Will reset this fight, but Genetics has lost a whole lot of HP. A double kill for Captain Twig. The Loki, obnoxious to say the least, on the back end of this fight is picked up too.
But Nika's still strong in the midst of 3 for the Camelot Kings. Variety looking for damage onto Neil as Vote paranoid because he doesn't know where Twig is.
They might be able, I was going to say, Twig either pushes in this wave, looks at a Phoenix, or rounds the backside of this fight. Neilma is going to get burnt through, and Netrioid grabs it. The Camelot Kings in a 3-for-1 take the FG scrap.
Still feel like that should have gone so much better for the Warriors. I mean, Dardes solo Tings, basically. He just needed a tiny bit of help.
Oh, great pull from Genetics, and it's Nika who's brought, well, real close to death here, and the damage will follow after. Genetics finally will get the kill on to the pesky RDO. And the Camelot Kings, they've got all 5 on the map. Vote is just going to take away farm, I think. Might be waiting to see if
trying to kill
if
Big
Big
Man
Man
at
Tings,
base.
yeah, routes in this direction, but unfortunately BMT on the other side of the map.
I wonder if Vote can get in here and steal this away.
Ooh, it's going to be close. Fields of Love is down from Netrioid. Vote.
No way! No way!
Are you kidding me? Unreal. Vote takes it away from downtown. The Uller hits pay dirt yet again. And will he leap away? The answer is yes. Variety in to chase him down. 3 members of the Oni Warriors get enhanced fire giant. He'll pay for his crimes. But it's a fitting bill for the big play that Vote makes.
Listen, sorry for the sacrilege, Joe Burrow, but we all worship Vote now because he is just making it happen, man, on this Uller. It's a big play for the Kings to be able to clean him up after the fact, but how about the lurking Uller in the back line? Kings never saw it.
Yeah, I'm going for BMT, but I'll do you one better. Enhanced Fire Giant's where my eyes go. But you're now fighting without Vote for 35 seconds. Is Enhanced Fire Giant good enough to give the Oni Warriors an advantage underneath their Phoenix here? Immediately pushed back is Kubo Fred, who somehow survives.
Dardes in.
Walking in is Dardes.
Oh
and look
my
at the
God.
damage. It's a triple
Oh
kill for
my
Dardes.
God.
Do it to him, baby. 1, 2, 3. Dardes over the wall, nearly gets the quad, and suddenly the Jean-Qui has come alive.
If it's not Vote, it's Dardes. Unbelievable. My man nearly just
Do it to him,
one-tap
baby. Hit
penta-killed
him
them.
with the quad. Delayed 4-piece for Dardes. Set him up, knock him down. Jean-Qui's hitting the mark.
You can see him kind of inching forward, looking for his moment to hit the gas pedal, and then he slams the Blink ult right on top of the entirety of the Kings. Little EFG enhanced money right there for Dardes. And the Kings, I kind of liked the call. I liked the fact that they were still being aggressive despite losing. You know, a lot of teams would back up, mentally broken after that. Maybe it would have been better to let the mental break.
Yeah, maybe. Variety now. I mean, a tale of 2 moments. That's half of 4, by the way. The Oni Warriors walking into the mid lane. Phoenix will fall. How confident are we feeling? Fair enough. You're feeling all right about that, Phoenix, but not confident enough to keep walking forward. You want to take your advantages as you give them and not gamble them away.
Off of his initiation, let's look back at some of the big moments that we've seen
6
over
skin,
just
by
the
the way.
last few. This was as it turned
He's on
into
wards
that
there.
fire giant. That is unbelievable that Vote's able to steal that away and then nearly got away.
There's
off
something
the
about
back
the
end of that.
side flip as
Yeah,
well when he
exactly.
sets it out.
Pop and then the side flip and then look, Variety's trying to keep him in combat, but Dardet just goes
Oh my
right through.
God.
And look at this
You dream of that.
exorcism. Blah!
You
Just
dream of
takes
that.
out Big Man Tings that easily.
Oh, my God. I mean, that's
That's the Jean-Qui experience, baby. That's what I love to see. And that's the thing that I think the Warriors have been so lacking from
It's because
Dardet.
he's got Blink.
Well, it's because he's got Blink, number one, but he's got confidence. I mean, he started that last fight on right side mids and one-shot Big Man Tings. He gets in there 1v4 because his team makes good space for him, but they had all had to back up by that point. I think that mentality from Dardes, I think that the entirety of all of the Oni Warriors were lacking confidence a little bit. Playing with a lot more after you get a quad like that.
Absolutely. Mid lane Phoenix gone. Left side Phoenix stands. I mean, we've seen like a soft Phoenix defense once in this set. We had a 45-minute game 1. We're 33 minutes into game 2. And the Oni Warriors crumbled on the one attempted Phoenix defense in game 1. How will the Camelot Kings fare? Around the back go Nika and Cubo Fred, and this RDO has found the Discordia. Apple out, but it ricochets off the Phoenix and finds no target. Neilma continues to walk in. The strife is good, though, for Big Man Tings. Believe that saves the life of the Discordia. Can you say the same for Genetics? He lets out a big ult on the back end of his death, and Netrioid able to follow up. Captain Twig ults in. Vote is gone. The Camelot Kings, they've got the health, they've got the kills, and Netrioid with 2.
Just so spread out, and now they're going to be able to chase down the front line. Nika's dead. That should be it, Dave, even despite the heroics for the Oni Warriors.
That is devastating.
I don't see how they live through this.
Yeah, Nika is going to delay as well as he can, but it's not going to be well enough. Neilma is going to be alone in base, and the Camelot Kings, they get 4 kills. They've got 35 seconds to walk down mid.
I mean, it could be close for Dardes to come up.
Dardes 29. They
mean,
got 3 Phoenixes, 3
Twig is
towers
doing
still up.
red, and he's back. Are they not trying to end? Surely they could have ended from there. I am shocked.
I mean, I'm standing up.
I'm shocked. So am I. I got out of my Maxonomic chair, and you know I got to take it seriously to do that. Blink in and go full spooky season on them. Instead, they spread out. You know, big man's really far back, far away from Netrioid. They use their movement. They're willing to
happen again?
to give up a little bit.
Neilma walking forward, Fields of Love out. Thank God. Thank God for the sake of your eardrums, that one doesn't get stolen away. I would have lost it. The Oni Warriors were somewhere on that side of the map. Hey, the good news is,
What's that?
1 minute and 10 seconds are off of this enhanced fire giant already, and you've just now lost your first big base-wise objective. There's a chance as well for a jump in. When you have four blinks, I suppose moments like this are possible. You can kind of group up and then jump in on an unsuspecting target.
Yeah, that's the difference here for the Kings, is that now they have to be very wary of how grouped they are. They're so wide back there now that it's kind of hard to do.
Are they going to get back? That's the big question now. Genetics and Netrioid started their backs, but everyone from the Oni Warriors is here in force. Genetics is not the target. Netrioid is. He's got both actives. Beads get used. Fields of Love down. Aegis around the corner. Aegis used. Dash on out. Netrioid plays it as well as he can, but it's not going to be enough. The Heart Bomb on the other end of it will tick down Cubo Fred a little bit further. Fred will die, and Genetics able to trade out one, and in the mid lane go Twig and Variety.
Yeah, that's not bad, but you lose Netrioid, which stinks, though.
Darda is still here, though. You can defend this mid lane Phoenix. Still has beats. Digi and Torment used from Variety. Dardas walks forward, chunks Twig for big damage.
Oh my!
Assassinate is out, and Twig, he can find a fadeaway as well. It's not only Vote who will get it done in this set. Twig says, see you later, buddy. Blinks away and gets out of this engagement. A stun onto Nika. Big man chases up. Apple is out onto the RDO as well. But look at the massive healing numbers from Nika, who will rumble on away. Axe out from Vote to try to catch out Captain Twig. And Twig is not caught. And Twig's got another Neilman Vote against the world.
Vote's got to do it again. He's got to do it to them all, but Twig's going to blink in. Jump is still up. Vote might be able to do it.
Where are those cooldowns? You got to turn around. Misses the axe. Neilma finds a stun, but 4 members of the Camelot Kings onto the Titan. They've got enough damage, but do they have the HP? Vote in. Jumps on into the fight, why not? But he gets chipped on away. Unstoppable as Captain Twig. Absurd as game 2.
That was a crazy game, man. What a fun set that was between these two teams. I'm sure the Warriors
that'll wake you up, right?
aren't going to be thinking how much fun they had getting 2-0'd by the Camelot Kings.
Cupid, you see Netrioid go down, and he's able to get a turnaround kill. Little moments like that really pick them up. But I have to give the shout-outs all the way over to Twig, because Twig just did some nuts plays. Look, I was saying that his Loki into this game, I said it had been okay up to now. He definitely stepped up for this game. I mean, a lot of these kills were crucial. There were a lot of moments like that where you're able to see him get multiple kills, but realistically, it is these little picks where he is opening up the door. And, of course, actually, maybe the biggest thing, after this play where they lose Netrioid, despite getting a 1-for-1 trade, and I think a very good one thanks to Genetics, you have to rely on Twig. I mean, he is your physical damage to open up these Phoenixes, to get these kills. And so he really stepped up when his team needed him in order to get this win. And the fact that he was able to stay alive and get this nuts kill really made things even better.
Yeah, Captain Twig really stepping up here in game number 2 on this Loki. A little bit of hesitation, as you were talking about, going into the game, but I think this kind of washes all of that away. I don't think anybody has a doubt in their mind that Captain Twig is back on the Assassins. He's been showing it with the Hunbots. He's now showed it here in game number 2 with this Loki. Even game number 1, we got to see some big action from him. 9-1-6 to round out his game. Pretty big slash line there from the Loki. Netrioid struggled. I'll put that lightly. He struggled in the early game, but late game able to come back through some big fields of loves. That Fire Giant that did end up getting stolen there by Vote. I watched Vote at the speed buff at the very top of that map before they even started Fire Giant. And as soon as they touched, I saw Vote. I'm like, there's no way he comes back here and steals this. There's absolutely no way that Vote just walks up and takes it, and then he does. An impressive fight immediately afterward by the Warriors to keep it back in, but it is the Camelot Kings. Oh boy, did you miss a lot. Sure, there's a few 2-0s across the board with some big high-end action between the Bolts and the Kings starting out the day. Something about the Kings and taking it to long games, because their games against the Bolts were 30+. Now their matchup with the Warriors are 30+ games, and then we got a few 3-game sets in the middle of all that between the Bolts, the Leviathans, the Scarabs, Dragons, and The Scarabs and the Valkyries even had a 3-game set earlier today. Let's take a look at the standings and see how everything has shifted up now with a win here for the Camelot Kings. They're able to keep themselves up there in contention with the Olympus Bolts. They're not in the top 2 just yet. They're still sitting technically in that 5th spot compared to the Bolts, but that is because of the head-to-head matchup that they do have against this team.
Yeah, and that's, again, but all those numbers matter, right? Titans have a really big week coming up for them in the future. They're at 3-1. Dragons are 3-1. If the Leviathans are able to get the perfect 7-0, then they are going to sit up at the top. But knowing that there is a lot that stands between a lot of these teams and that they're all just right next to each other right now, the next couple of weeks are very important.
This is only week number 3. We've still got at least 2 more weeks before we jump into the group stage. Let's look at week number 4 of the SPL to see what action lies before us. Kings and Dragons and Leviathans Warriors to start the weekend off. Then the Dragons Titans get their fated rematch since the playoffs. Olympus Bolts and Solar Scarabs, Warriors and Valkyries, and then the Atlantis Leviathans and the Tartarus Titans